Well, you see them so many times now on YouTube and all. In fact, I often can tell when something is really a trend, particularly when we kind of get numb to it some. You know, that's really what's happened. It's not because we're hard-hearted, but just you see it so often. And now, this one I liked it particularly because, all right, maybe you have decided you never text, or you don't eat while you drive. You try to be that was just a guy just turned his head for a moment, you know, lost his focus for a moment and changed his life completely. Well, when we get done today, the Southern Gas Association, this group has put together a kind of exercise. And Carlos will be coming up and explaining it to you how it works, which I think is pretty cool. It's just a way for us to check each other some in this area, particularly about focusing and driving or being distracted in driving. So that's pretty neat. It's neat. You'll see. It's also help you to be able to network with each other, which is part of what this, engaging part of this session is. I have to tell you, besides what is coming at us from our electronic equipment that we use all the time, and from our fast-paced world, and just from everything being faster and faster, which has caused all kinds of problems with focusing, the main cause, by the way, especially when it comes for distractions at work and distractions in general, has to do not just with this, right, but that is what happens, because we have found out multitasking, these cause it, but generally in life, these emotions cause people to be distracted. It's been studied extensively. There was a really cool study with nurses in the Boston area that when they were going through a divorce, they were 5 to 8 times more likely to get into an accident the month before, during, and after the divorce than others that aren't going through a divorce. And it goes on and on and on. And these emotions, these negative emotions, are actually what is called neuroticism, neurotic. I always thought the word neurotic meant just bad, a nutty cat, let's say. No, it just means negative emotions. And as you'll see, here's one study that was done by Sutherland Cooper, and others have studied it. I did a bunch of work with BP with their offshore oil workers, having to do with stress and having to do with focusing. And I was surprised to find how many studies on this subject have been done with doctors, pilots, athletes, and in this case, offshore oil workers. Those that are high in neuroticism, as you can see up here, are more likely to get into an accident, period. It's not even close. It's not even maybe. In other words, the more often you get angry, frustrated, the more often you're upset about something that's going on at home, the less you focus and the less your employees focus. Learning how to handle your negative emotions and learning how to do things, habits that make it so that they are reduced, is wonderful, not just for safety reasons, but strictly just for life. And for me personally, this is why I was going to tell you that this session, this talk, which I've given so many times, and I'm going to be giving it more and more because more and more companies realize how important this topic has become. I started doing these things and coming up with these habits, and I'm going to share 3 with you, but there are 6 of them, but 3 today, because I used to have a really bad problem with 2 things that I wanted to get rid of. I grew up, I had a crazy childhood, like really crazy. My friends that I love playing pool. I hang out at these 2 bars with pool halls. They're like, how did you even live through that, Hawk? My mom was a dancer, and I don't mean the kind on Broadway. All right? I mean the kind with the poles. We lived above strip clubs. I was at foster homes different times. I had so many places I lived, people I didn't even know. I had a bunch of uncles. Oh, it was crazy. Drunken parties, just a mess. Police were always over our house when I was living at home. So it caused 3 things. 1, it caused me to be very uninhibited, creative. I've done all kinds of creative projects, as when Ivy introduced me, you saw. I love that part. I'm very uninhibited with people, completely. I feel very comfortable with strangers. I love that part of my life. However, up until my mid-40s, I suffered pretty severely with anxiety attacks, really bad ones, which about 20% of us here have experienced an anxiety attack like I'm talking about, where you really can't function. And I would have them fairly regular, enough that I'd miss work. I used to work at the nuclear power industry for years. And anger. I had anger problems. And I finally decided to get rid of it. And it just so happened to mix in with the sessions I was giving with studying accidents about stress, and it's really done wonders for me. Now, I do not suffer from either of them whatsoever. In fact, now I give classes to people and to companies about how not to suffer from those things. So that's why this is personal. If I do something on, say, Make Safety Fun or the leadership, I don't tell you all this personal stuff because there's no need to. It doesn't apply. But in this case, it does. And so I wanted to start by giving you a test and telling you about 2 misconceptions that held me back until my mid-40s, and also that might hold you back from making changes for yourself and your employees for all different reasons, but there's 2 big ones. So if you don't mind, get your card that you have there. And we're going to do a test. And before we do, I want to let you know that it's not just getting rid of negative emotions, by the way, learning to focus better. I mean, for you and your employees, there's all different benefits. As you do better JSAs or job task analysis, whatever you call them, you'll notice hazards more. You'll be more patient. You'll taste your food more. You'll notice colors better, better relationships. I mean, learning to be mindful and focus has a million benefits, both directly related to safety and otherwise. Hey, you'll be better in bed. That's right, you'll sleep better. You will. I know, I've had people call me and tell me about it. All right, well, let's go. I have a test for you. And here's what I'd like you to do, if you don't mind. If you need a pen, too, by the way, there's a few folks that are passing out pens. All right, cool. I'm going to make 15 statements. And all I want you to do is to circle whether you think what I just said is true or if you think what I just said is false. Some of the statements are true and some of the statements are false. It's not a trick test. And I got my sources from reliable sources, which means not the media. All right? I didn't use the media whatsoever. Whoever gets the highest score gets to pick whatever prize that you want. And don't forget, Amy, you're shooting for a yodeling pickle, so do good, all right? All right, number 1. A human body will not sink more than 3/4 below the surface in quicksand. In other words, if I was in quicksand, I'd only sink about this far, no further. Is that true or is that false? 2, porcupines can throw their quills up to 4 feet. Porcupines can throw their quills up to 4 feet. 3, ostrich never hide their head in the sand. Ostrich never hide their head in the sand. 4, stepping on a rusty nail is no more likely to give you lockjaw than stepping on a nail that's not rusty. So if I stepped on a nail that was rusty, or I stepped on a nail that wasn't rusty, when it comes to lockjaw, it won't make a bit of difference. 5, the most common cause of disabling injury from chair falls comes from standing on a chair and using it as a ladder. Most common cause of disabling injury from chair falls, standing on a chair and using it as a ladder. 6, a leg falls asleep, like when you've been on the commode for too long, due to a lack of blood circulation. A leg falls asleep due to a lack of blood circulation. 7, nearly all deaths that result from lightning strikes occur outdoors. Nearly all deaths that result from lightning strikes occur outdoors. Number 8, eating unripe apples, green apples, will not make you sick. And I don't mean the kind that are Granny Smith, they're mutated green apples. I mean, if you go to an apple tree and the apple isn't ripe and you ate some apples that weren't ripe, you would not get sick. Number 9, quiet dogs are more likely to bite you than dogs that bark. Quiet dogs are more likely to bite you than dogs that bark. 10, when a baby is teething, it's normal for it to run a fever. When a baby is teething, it's normal for it to run a fever. Number 11, the four-eyed fish of South America has only 2 eyes. And that's its common scientific name, by the way, is the four-eyed fish of South America has only 2 eyes. You are more likely to die, number 12, in an accident in an SUV than if you're in an accident in a standard-size automobile. So if you do get in an accident and you're in an SUV, you're more likely to die than if you get into an accident in a standard-size automobile. Is that true or is that false? 13, thumbs up meant a gladiator was to be spared. Thumbs up meant a gladiator was to be spared. Number 14, Albert Einstein was a slow learner as a child. Albert Einstein was a slow learner as a child. And number 15, the least amount of suicides, the fewest suicides take place in the United States during Christmas time. So during the winter holidays is when the least amount take place. All right, let's see how you did. Number 1, a human body will not sink more than 3/4 below the surface in quicksand is true. You're more buoyant in quicksand than you are in fresh or salt water. My daughter Amber She called me a bit ago, and she said, Dad, she's 33, Amber. She said, Dad, Mythbusters had a thing about quicksand, that test you give, and the people only sunk up to their chest. Now, Mythbusters is not my source, okay? Those two crazy guys may or may not have figured something out. But just to show you, even they were able to demonstrate that it doesn't. 2, porcupines can throw their quills up to 4 feet. Is false. They can't throw them at all. They have no throwing mechanism. Number 3, ostrich never hide their head in the sand. It's true. They never do it. You'd have to grab an ostrich by its head, and jam it in there. Stepping on a rusty nail, number 4, is no more likely to give you lockjaw than stepping on a nail that's not rusty. It's true. Clostridium tetani is the bacteria that gets into horse manure and cow manure. Rust has nothing to do with it. I always thought it did too. The most common cause of disabling injury from chair falls comes from standing on a chair and using it as a ladder. Number 5 is false. Can you guess which it is? Yeah, leaning back. Now, that doesn't mean standing on a chair is less hazardous, because there's 2 things going on here. One, statistically, more people lean back than they do stand on it, right? So the exposure is higher. However, I did find out from my research on this that it's at times a serious injury because taller you are, more likely this is to happen. When the chair kicks out, your head goes forward and the top of your neck hits the ground. So the little vertebrae in the top of your neck, you crack one of them, you will have a problem with your head movement and pain the rest of your life probably. And so it is still more dangerous than you might think, but it's also because we lean back more than we step on chairs. 6, a leg falls asleep due to lack of blood circulation is false. It's called neuropraxia. It's a nerve ending that's all being pushed up against, like if you hit your ulnar bone, if you hit your funny bone. 7, nearly all deaths that result from lightning strikes occur outdoors is false. About 50-50. Some countries it's more. I did find out something in my research with this. Standing next to a window, not just hardwired stuff, but standing next to a window is how some people get fried from electricity, from lightning. What happens is that if it strikes, even though glass is an insulator, a lot of glass in our homes have metal rims around the side, plus they're not very good insulators. And we're great conductors, so it'll jump from the window to you. I live by a lake, Sunset Lake, and I used to always, like a thunderstorm, no matter how close it was, I like to watch it go bouncing off the lake, the lightning, the reflection. So I don't do that anymore. I get my wife to do that now. Well, I love Jack. I'd never get to do that. 8, eating unripe apples will not cause sickness is true. According to the United States Department of Agriculture, and I got it one other source, quote, both ripe and unripe apples are digestible by your stomach. Number 9, quiet dogs are more likely to bite you than dogs that bark is false. I got this study in England, and quote from the SPCA agencies, there is no correlation between how noisy a dog is and its likelihood to bite. Breeds matter. Chows might bite you more than labs. 10, when the baby is teething, it's normal for it to run a fever. It's totally false. From the Mayo Clinic, quote, teething does not cause fevers or make a baby more susceptible to colds. Now let's stop here for a minute, and I want to tell you why we're taking the test. And then also, let's say Matthew here, you're all snotty, Matthew, and your teeth are hurting, you're crying, and like you usually do at work, right? Yeah, right. Right. And then we take your temperature orally, and we find out that it will be a little bit higher than normal. Mine is right now. Anytime you're excited, or athletes it happens to, your temperature will go up and down a little bit throughout the day. And see, when babies are upset and in pain and anguish, their temperatures will go up, even if you just from banging themselves. It doesn't have to be from teething. Now, the reason I bring this up, misconceptions are things that seem like they're one way, but they're really another. Now, the 3 reasons we're taking this test is, number 1, I like it. I just like it. I think it's fun to do. I mean, and you're engaged in it, so much, unusual stuff, so I like it. Number 2, didn't I promise you I would do stuff to help you to remember this and to have memory hooks and remember today? Next time you're on the hopper and your leg goes numb, who are you going to remember? I don't know I want to be remembered that way, but yeah. You're watching the ostrich put its head in the sand with your children, right, or grandchildren, you'll think of this. So it's also a good memory hook. And number 3, which ties in directly with this subject, misconceptions fall into a couple different categories. One in particular is misconceptions that are totally irrelevant. Who cares if you know whether ostrich put its head in the sand or not, unless you raise ostrich or something, right? The second one are directly dangerous. The directly tie into you and I as safety professionals. and things we should also realize. In fact, the Heinrich triangle has been shown not to be true in many cases at all because of what I'm going to talk about, this type of misconception. All the evidence, everything you see and happens, makes it seem like something is one way when it's actually the opposite. Great example. I think it was Time magazine, was a study I'd read, just the results from a study, about teenagers, about high school seniors, how many times they text in a school year when they're driving. And it was 11 times a day to and from school. That's average. Now remember, that means some are doing it 25, 30 times. Others don't do it at all, right? Or one or two. Let's picture, I'm going to say I'm average, 11 times a day. I'm a senior in high school. And I text every day when I go to school, about 180 some days we go to school, times 11. And I don't get into an accident. You're telling me it's dangerous? I just did it, thousands of times I've done it. And I didn't get into an accident. All the evidence shows that there's no problem. But you and I know that that's not true. It's a misconception. So they're a direct safety problem. If you want a copy of this test, by the way, send me an email. You have it on the card. You can go to my site and send me. I'll be happy to send you a copy of this test, because using this test with your employees for this purpose I just said, like maybe if they're going to go into a confined space, or you have something to do where they have lockout, tagout, you usually don't have any minor problems. You don't have, it's like the parachute doesn't fail, 30, 40 times before you get a serious one, right? And that's why these are crazy misconceptions that have to do with safety. Third type of misconception, which is the one I'm really stressing, is when we think something is one way, when it's really the other, and so we don't do stuff. We don't improve our performance. We don't get better. We don't make changes.